This is a lesson over the respiratory and circulatory systems. You will find this on the second page of the capacity matrix. It's numbered 4 through 6. This is also step 2 of the human body. Learning targets. By learning this information, you'll be able to identify the purpose of the respiratory and circulatory systems. Look at the key words: identify and purpose. To identify something, you will pick it out of a group of other things. The purpose of something is the reason for it. You will also be studying the respiratory system and the circulatory system. So you'll be able to pull out the reason that the respiratory system helps the rest of the body. You'll also be able to list the parts of the respiratory and circulatory system. You need to be able to list, and you also need to be able to know what parts are. You've already learned what the respiratory and circulatory systems are at this point. Your final learning target will be to explain the purpose and function of the respiratory and circulatory systems. In order to do this, you need to be able to explain using details, examples, and you also need to know what the function is. So how do these parts work together to fill a purpose? The purpose of the respiratory system. There are two. The respiratory system is responsible for getting oxygen into the blood, and it's also responsible for getting rid of our waste, which is carbon dioxide. The circulatory system also has two purposes. The first purpose is to transport substances like oxygen and food throughout the body. Another purpose of the circulatory system is to carry waste like carbon dioxide out of the body. The parts of the respiratory system. The first part is the nostril or mouth. This is where air enters. The second part of the respiratory system is the nasal passage. This is where air travels from the nostrils or the mouth into the trachea. The trachea is a tube that allows air to travel from the nasal passages into the bronchi of the lungs. The lungs are tissues that are made of these really small air sacs, and the air sacs are surrounded by little tiny blood vessels. This is where oxygen and carbon dioxide move through a thin membrane or a thin skin. So oxygen can move in and out of the blood at this area. Finally, there's the diaphragm, and this is a muscle. It's located just below your rib cage, and it moves up and down, expanding and contracting as you inhale and exhale. Here are the parts of the circulatory system. There are quite a few, so be patient with me. The first part is blood, and this is actually a tissue that's made up of cells and cell parts that are carried in a liquid. One type of cell that you'll find in blood is red blood cells. These are very special cells, and they're responsible for carrying oxygen and carbon dioxide. White blood cells are another special type of cell, and they help fight viruses and diseases. Platelets help blood clot when you get injured. This is why you don't bleed all over the place. It's also what causes things like scabs. And finally, all of these cells are carried in a liquid. The liquid is called plasma. In addition to blood, there's also a heart. The heart helps pump blood around the body. Blood vessels. There are two different types of blood vessels, arteries and veins. Arteries carry blood away from the heart, arteries, away, while veins carry blood to the heart. Finally, there are little tiny blood vessels called capillaries. How do the respiratory and circulatory systems function? How do they work? While the air enters the mouth and travels through the nasal passage, trachea, and into the bronchs of your lungs. There are those small air sacs that exchange carbon dioxide in the blood for oxygen. This carbon dioxide is carried by red blood cells. Oxygen enters your lungs by inhaling, and carbon dioxide is removed by exhaling. So once we inhale, the blood carrying oxygen travels from the lungs to the heart and through the rest of the blood in arteries. Arteries away. So this blood is being carried away from your heart to the rest of your body. Nutrients in the blood, like oxygen, are exchanged through capillaries and cells. Blood carrying carbon dioxide returns to the heart through veins. So the capillaries and the cells exchange oxygen for carbon dioxide. The blood carrying carbon dioxide returns back to your heart. And then the blood is pumped from the heart to the lungs. And this is where the carbon dioxide is released and the oxygen is picked back up. This cycle continues. So blood carrying oxygen travels from the lungs to the heart and then through the rest of the body in the arteries. This was a lesson over the respiratory and circulatory systems.